Welcome, everybody. It's great to be back. This is a new season of ARPchives Live, and yeah, kind of welcoming in the colder months for those of us who live in colder places, and we're going to be indoors more, and the evenings get dark. So I thought this is a wonderful way to start to bring back some life right at 5 o'clock when it gets dark. At least in North America, it's sunset right now. Anyway, we're really glad to be here, and just want to make a few announcements, of course. First of all, we are entering the obligatory holiday season, and whatever your feelings are about Black Friday and all, we couldn't quite help ourselves but jump on the bandwagon this year. So we set up a nice little shop. Here's a screenshot of it, and I'm going to talk about, there's a new addition to the shop, which you'll see soon. Actually, all of our stuff is going to be 10% off, so definitely visit the shop. Those of you who already have coupons and haven't redeemed them yet from the symposium, you will get 20% off, so it's kind of a good time. So you'll see the little Pete Townsend poster right here, and there's a little story about that, this one here. So I'm going to start with the original one. This was hanging up in my basement when I was a kid, and actually there were a lot of black light posters. It was really kind of fun. I got them from ARP, and later on in life, I couldn't find this one. I'm quite sure my mom probably gave it away or got lost in a move to college or something like that. And when I tried to find one, the only one I could find was a $500 one. Oh my goodness. Online that had already been sold. And this is about 36 inches. This was a big poster. And so I decided I want to recreate this, or maybe make a different version. So I went into cahoots with, I don't know if some of you probably know Brian Kehoe. He's keyboard tech for The Who, a dear friend and a friend of the Foundation's as well, and started rolling some ideas around. And then I felt that I should ask Pete Townsend's people, and Pete Townsend, if they say if it's okay, and they said absolutely. They gave their blessings. So right now we have two editions. This is going to be a regular poster, 18 by 24. And this one's really special. This is going to be printed on metal, so there's going to be a metallic sheen. And this one's a little bit more costly, but it is done by Giclée today, the wonderful company, and we're really excited about offering this new print. And then, of course, we have our wonderful Odyssey stuff as well. So please definitely take a visit to the store. And also the also obligatory quest for funding. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being such amazing supporters of the foundation. We couldn't be doing this without you. I'm going to post a couple of links here. So there's a donate link and a link to the shop. So if you want to come and go shopping and check it out. All right, let's get back here. So I'm going to bring in Nick Carlisle, who's been waiting very quietly here. Are you there? Yeah, there you are. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Dana.
So
Thanks
Nick
for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for joining us. I finally got to meet Nick in person last month in October, along with quite a few of our UK friends I got to meet in person. And we had a really, really wonderful time. We had tea with Richard McPhail, and then we went off and went traipsing around Abbey Road and had a lovely dinner and plotting our next show together. So please give Nick Carlisle a warm welcome. I wish we could hear I should get the clapping stuff from the Pro Synth Network. Yeah, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'll get the clap track. Anyway, so I'm gonna let him start to take over here because I've done enough babbling for the moment. Nick is here joining us because he's just about to release a full-length soundtrack CD And the CD has to do with a wonderful project that is going to commence on this Friday. Is that correct?
Is this Thursday? Is the performance, uh, and that's in a cinema in Belfast. So basically, I was commissioned by the Queen's Film Theatre in Belfast to compose a new score for the centenary edition of a film called Häxan. And now I should say, before we even continue, that I keep calling it Häxan and it's pronounced Häxan. I'm reliably informed it's a Swedish film, so I don't know if the audience can administer electric shocks, but if they can please do that if I say Häxan again at any point in the next hour. But yeah, it's pronounced Häxan.
Or we can
Um,
follow Alex Ball's puns: hack symphonic pickup, the ARP hacks, the harp axe. I don't know.
yeah. So the film is so Häxan is Swedish for the witch, and it's a 1922 film that was kind of a an essay, if you like, in filmic form on the history of witchcraft in Europe and witch trials in the Middle Ages. And yeah, so I was asked to compose a soundtrack for this already 100 years old film, which I've done. I'm releasing highlights of it as an album. Now, actually, you said CD. It's not a CD at the
It's not a
moment.
CD.
It's digital. It's just going to be at my Bandcamp for the time being. So that's nickcarlisle.bandcamp.com, and that's released on Friday. But the soundtrack is actually 1 hour 45 minutes, and yeah, I'm performing that live this Thursday in Belfast. Um, so yeah,
Ah, Alex is in rare form. I heard you guys went drinking recently.
well last night it
Last
was. It's why I'm on the water.
night.
It wasn't as wild as it sounds.
You guys were very well behaved, huh?
We were. It
Uh-huh.
was he, I, and Andrew Ward as well. I don't know if Andrew's on, but he's a fellow ARP chap.
We've renamed him Andrew Warp,
Uh,
WARP. Oh my goodness. Let's talk a little. Let's get back to the beginning a little bit because I'm not sure everyone here has seen your first interview with me, and if they're not familiar with your work, I think it would be really great to just talk a few minutes about your earlier work. So you're in several different bands. Lean Logic is the one that comes to mind right now, but tell us about
yeah,
that.
and we released our. It was actually our debut album last year.
Oh, we lost him. Oh, hold on. Let's see if we can find him. All right, just give us a moment because what is a live stream without a glitch? It's pre recorded. That's what a live stream is without a glitch. There he is. Uh oh, it's all the scenes perfectly set up. Let's see what happens. Are you there? There you are.
What did you do to me? So
I'm
what
not
were we
taking
talking about? Lean Logic.
Lean
So
Logic.
we did our first album last year, and that was on this label O Genesis, which is run by Tim Burgess of the Charlatans.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
the UK audience will remember the Charlatans. I don't know if they were big in the US or not, but
Well, we called them the Charlatans UK because there was another Charlatans. Yeah, yeah,
okay, like Suede UK as
yeah.
well, or the London Suede, is that what they're called there? But yeah, so we did that, and Yeah, I've done other bands. There's a cool label in the UK called Upset the Rhythm, which is like I mean, they're kind of a DIY label, but they're actually quite big in a way, and they've sort of put out stuff by Future Islands and promoted them and so on, and other people like John Mouse and Ariel Pink and so on. And so I've had albums released through Upset the Rhythm, with other bands that I've done, like Bamboo and Peepholes. So Peepholes really was the first sort of proper band that I was doing, and that was started in about 2006 and lasted about 5 or 6 years. Um, and we went through various permutations. It's always myself and one other person. This was my pal Kat playing drums and singing, and I had the Pro One here for most of Peepholes, and that was fun because basically the setup was just Kat on vocals whilst drumming, and then me playing a mono synth. And so basically all of the harmonic content and the music, everything was just coming from a mono synth.
Oh
So
wow.
obviously note at a time. But so it almost became a sort of subconscious challenge to fill as much of the spectrum as possible in this impossible circumstance. And so we ended up sort of becoming a noise band. And I kind of, like at one point, and I basically, put the Pro One through a Chaos Pad, which I still use a lot, and actually that's how I think I sort of developed what I consider to be my sound in those days, and I still use the Pro One a lot through the Chaos Pad. There's a particular preset, actually it's only a preset on the Chaos Pad, but it's like a sort of sample delay thing, sort of reverby delay. And if you sort of put your, actually, I'll show you later on when I'm showing you around the studio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You kind of pass your finger over the track pad, and just the reverb just starts going crazy,
Oh wow.
and it sounds pretty cool. But yeah, so it's quite easy to make a real racket, and also with the Pro One. Again, I mentioned this later on, but the it has an arpeggiator on it. And so I used to sort of trick the ear into thinking that they were hearing more than a monosynth. It's quite possible to set the rate of the arpeggiator fast and then just hold down a chord and it'll cycle through the notes. And it's going so fast that you're hearing a chord really. So plus with all the echo and stuff happening as well. So yeah, it was sort of Peepholes was fun because it was about the restrictions in a way that were placed upon us and that we had placed upon ourselves, and just trying to be as noisy as possible in that circumstance.
Well, I think limitations, we've said this over and over again, and I used to say this as a teacher, that limitations are sort of the birth of creativity. You try to do, when you have limitations, you try to work your way around them, and this is where creativity comes in. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff was done with monosynths before polyphony came around. So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
Um, so now, have you done soundtracks before? Because I would imagine this is it's very different doing a soundtrack than creating an album. I mean, first of all, you're using polyphonic as well as monophonic instruments, correct? What are you using right now on the? What have you used on the soundtrack?
Quite a lot of stuff. I mean, just whatever I laid my hands on here. So I've used the Pro Soloist, the ARP Pro Soloist a lot. I've used Roland Juno 60. Um, I've used, let me see, a lot of software instruments as well, actually. Uh, an IK Multimedia Hammond organ plugin, which is really, really good. And I've used the Pro One. I've used this Korg wave station a little bit, and mainly the Prophet 5, a Rev 4 Prophet 5, one of the new ones. And that's actually just gone yesterday, shipped over to Belfast for the performance, so I don't have that here right at this moment. But yeah, so it was mainly the Prophet 5 and the ARP Pro Soloist. Um, and in terms of other soundtracks, I've never scored a movie before. Actually was asked to do one once, but then the film didn't happen, or it hasn't happened yet anyway. Um, I did do a little soundtrack for Novara Media in London here, which is it was doing a documentary on Rosa Luxemburg actually, and that's on YouTube, and I did a soundtrack for that. So I mean, that's I can't remember how long it is. It's probably about a half-hour film, and so that was a question of just maybe doing two or three themes that then just recur. And I just gave them the stuff and they edited it and placed it where they needed to, kind of thing. So I've done that. I've also done a little bit of work for the fashion photographer Jürgen Teller.
Mm-hmm.
Done a couple of minute long like pieces for sort of fashion videos, online things, and and also some of my previous band stuff like peepholes and other things I've done has ended up in soundtracks, but they weren't, you know, composed specifically for that purpose. So yeah, a couple of things like this. So a couple of things in the US actually. There was a documentary on a US channel called Cat, which has some of my music on it. I've never seen it, and also a surfing, like a film about surfing
Like
used to
Dick
people.
Dale? Like
Well, kind of like a cool like 2008 sort of. Yeah, I can't. I think I did watch it actually, but it was good. It was a good film. Just some dudes surfing, and yeah, they used peepholes for that, like a peepholes track.
oh great.
But no, I've never done a complete movie, and so that's been an eye opener. But one thing as well that just sort of sets Häxan aside is that it's a silent film, of course. So um, which I imagine is much different than scoring a modern day film with audio. so so basically it's 1 hour 45 minutes and there's no audio in it at all. So I've got to fill up all of it,
Wow.
um, and I think that in a way changed how I approached it because I think probably if it had been a modern film with dialogue, I probably would have done it in a more modern way of basically um, setting up atmospheres and having moods and so on, and more noise based basically, and music concrete if you like, or whatever way you want to put it.
Sound design
But
would be another way to like sound design as opposed to
yeah,
scoring. Yeah.
exactly. But because it's silent, I kind of did revert back to the idea of sort of melody and so on. And actually, I mean, in a way, quite a lot of it is composed of sort of instrumental songs. So um, it kind of is album like almost the actual score itself. It's sort of I think of it as sort of a double album or something, one of those immersive double albums like The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway or something like that. That's how I sort of um, think of the film now in a way, having worked on it.
Well, let's hear one. So you've picked you've created two recordings that are just exclusive for this
Yeah.
this production, and they're also can be heard when you purchase the album. So the first one, Witch Sabbath. Do you want to tell us about it first, or should we give it a listen and
Yeah,
then?
I can tell you a little bit. It's Witch Sabbath is sort of is a recurring theme in the film, and it's I guess it's sort of an idiotic, sort of unhinged kind of little circus-like piece of music, um, and yeah, it's the moment when the witches convene in spring on the Brocken Mountain on their sort of broomsticks
Wow.
and have their sort of, their crazy trancing sort of dancing with the devils and so on, and yeah. So it's yeah. What do they call it? Walpurgisnacht, I think, was the German for it, but that was the name of the night where they all convened, and this is for their sort of bacchanalian kind of crazy party. But yeah, I've done it in this unhinged way, so yeah, you can have a listen.
Okay, great. Come on. Sorry. Hold on. I like the little fade at the end.
Yeah, actually, seeing that has reminded me that I didn't. When you asked what instruments did I use on the soundtrack, I left out the main one, which is the Mellotron.
Yeah. Yeah, your friend, I think Michael Staley mentioned it as well. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah, yeah,
And hi, Michael.
yeah.
uh, yeah. Yeah, it did slip my mind, and it is odd that it did because it's probably the main instrument on the soundtrack. So I was using the cellos a lot, which just sound really scrapey and doomy.
Yes.
And uh,
Yes, there's definitely a dark feel
yeah.
here going on. Yeah. Yeah, lots of
Mm,
applause here. Alex Ball,
mm.
Syntrix, Sinsor
Can
Music.
everyone hear it all right? By the way, can
Oh,
I
it's
ask?
I think it sounded all right.
Yeah,
Anybody
good.
I haven't usually this nobody ever lacks the compunction to tell us when the sound isn't good. So, yeah, this a hard it's a hard crowd.
Did anyone notice that I dropped off?
Torsten Heinz also says that it is a oh
Valpur
well
Valpurgisnacht. Did I
Walpurgisnacht. Yeah,
did I pronounce it
yeah,
correctly,
yeah.
Torsten?
And Alex Ball says it sounds great on studio speakers. So good.
Good.
Yeah, good job. Good job. So, at this point, before we hear any more, I think it would be great to have you do a little studio tour because and a lot of people are really interested in the gear that you use because this is primarily a group of synthesizer enthusiasts, composers, musicians as well. So let's take the little tour. So just to let you all know, we are going back in time. I have no idea how we're doing this, and we brought everything back in here. So let's see.
Okay, so this is a little tour of my modest bedroom studio setup, and I'll start with the Pro One here, which I bought 30 years ago, nearly in 1993, and it's still my favorite synth. I have to say, it's just got such a lovely warm tone, and it's the dual oscillators. It was the first time I had a synth that had two oscillators, and I guess it was my first experience playing one and hearing one really, and isolated as well. And I just loved the warmth and the sort of the oscillators beating against each other, all of that gubbins. Um, and yeah, I mean, I use it a lot through this Chaos pad actually, um, which isn't hooked up to it at the moment. Actually, it's not switched on at the moment, but that gives it a very big sort of cavernous reverby sound. And actually I did a band called Peepholes a good few years ago now, and basically that was my friend Kat on drums and me on just on this one synth for quite a lot of the time we were together. And yeah, between me, her, and this synth, we just made an absolute racket. So yeah, it was quite possible to fill up the spectrum with a mono synth through the Chaos pad. What I would do is put the arpeggiator on, and so if you play single notes, well, double notes, but on a monophonic synth, it's sort of going do 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 do, and it gives the impression of polyphony, when of course it's not polyphonic. And anyway, moving on to a more modern sequential, well, sort of. It's the Prophet 5 Rev 4, which was a nice sort of gift from Sequential during, well, it wasn't a gift to me from Sequential, but I just mean to the world, during the pandemic. So that definitely kept me amused. So yeah, I'm bringing the Prophet 5 over. Well, have to ship it over to Belfast for this performance. So yeah, I mean, I have quite a lot of patches I'll be using stored in the Prophet 5, but also I'm using it as a MIDI controller as well for some Logic instruments, and also a Hammond organ, an IK Multimedia Hammond organ actually, which Dave Kersner very kindly sort of gave me, well, sort of in payment for a little job I did for him at the Farm Studios, the Genesis Studios. And so that Hammond organ is really, really good actually. So yeah, I'm using that quite a lot on the Häxan album and during the live performance. And yeah, I've got the Chaos Pad actually hooked up to the Prophet 5 at the moment, because I'm bringing the Chaos Pad as well, so I can demonstrate my signature kind of sound. So this is fairly bog standard sound without the Chaos Pad, but I just love these cavernous sort of echoey reverbs. Well, I can't because I'm holding my iPhone, of course, but you can do all sorts of crazy effects with the touchpad there. And moving down and moving back and through the mists of time. Well, if you can see this, it's kind of hidden under the Prophet 5, but it's an ARP Pro. Well, of course, I'm telling Dina, the daughter of Alan R. Parliament, that it's an ARP Pro soloist. You'll know that. And yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this synthesizer. It just has the loveliest selection of tones, and it's for a single oscillator synth. The range of tones that it makes is great, and also where it, well, I don't even think it lacks in oscillators, but where you might say it lacks in oscillators, it makes up for in sort of the touch sensor aspect. It's so expressive. So yeah, I mean, you can, I'm sure you know all this anyway, being ARP people, but you can sort of you can add the touch sensor to the pitch and to vibrato. Oops, making an absolutely amazing sound here. And all sorts of other things. But yeah, I mean, I bought the ARP Pro Soloist off eBay a few years ago, mainly because I'd always loved the sounds on Selling England by the Pound and The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which I suspect is, the reason why most people who probably have an ARP Pro Soloist, bought one. Or well, certainly in the last couple of decades anyway. But I mean, Tony Banks, I guess, is one of the most famous users, certainly in the UK anyway. But anyway, I was very pleasantly surprised to discover that it also featured on my other favourite album. So favourite album, Selling England by the Pound. Another favourite album of mine is Low by David Bowie. And yeah, I didn't realise, but he obviously, or someone on the album, used a Pro Soloist. So let me see if I can show you. Now, how do I get the fuzz? Can you see that? Well, rather you can't see, but all of the, it's under the Prophet 5 anyway in the shadows, but all of the screen print is worn off. So let me just see if I can find. Here we go. So this sound is Fuzz Guitar 1, which I guess is like the In the Cage. That from Genesis, from The Lamb Lies Down. But it's also the same sound That is on, I don't know if I can, what key is it in? I don't know if anyone recognizes that, but that's Weeping Wall of Low. So that was nice for me to find out, because I've always been really intrigued by the production on Low, and you know, it uses Chamberlain a lot, and the Art Pro soloist, and other sounds on there, and obviously the Eventide harmonizer on the snare drum as well. So lots of different sounds going on in Low that you don't really hear a lot on other records, really. Anyway, so there you go. So that's the Art Pro soloist. And then speaking of Tony Banks, below is this Roland Rhodes MK80 piano, which belonged to Tony Banks. So this is a lovely, there we go, lovely piano. And yeah, Genesis were selling off a lot of their gear there, and I think they're still auctioning some of it on Vimeo. And anyway, I was lucky enough to be able to buy this piano, and also another one that I'll show you in a tick as well. But I'm finding this actually very, very usable. It has lovely electric piano sound. Now, I think it was Harry Rhodes. I don't think he was very, very happy with this particular phase of the Rhodes piano's history when it fell under Roland ownership. I don't think he particularly rated the sound, but I mean, I think it sounds great for my purposes. Obviously, it's not a sort of mechanical Rhodes piano. It's a digital approximation, but I think it sounds good. It's got a lovely analog phaser on it as well, actually. Actually, looking at this, if you see there, CARP for carpet crawlers, it's still got Tony Banks's presets stored in it. So this was used on the, I guess, the We Can't Dance album, and then also the tour in '92. Oops. Which I think he only played Carpet Crawlers once or twice, but let me see, what else has it got? That. And so that's all. And Lamb. Now you can't play The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway when you're holding an iPhone, so you can guess. Or I'll play the one hand bit of it. Okay. So that's that. Now that weighs a ton as well, I have to say, so I am slightly aware that this entire side of my bedroom may cave in, and I'll end up in someone's bathroom. Anyway, so over here is the little Mellotron, and this is really handy, dinky little Mellotron, which I'm going to bring over to Belfast for this Häxan performance as well. So obviously, very obviously, this is a digital Mellotron. There's no tapes in here. But it's lovely. This cello. So screamy. It's got a little bit of touch sensor volume there. And the flutes. So yeah, so I've used the Mellotron a lot on the soundtrack, um, mainly because of those cello sounds. Actually, they just sound very doomy and gothic, and just really fit the mood. Okay, and oh, under here I've spotted the flute, which I've used on the soundtrack as well. I've overdubbed myself playing this flute quite a lot, um, in a very out of tune way. Okay, so moving back here to some keyboards that aren't switched on, but so this Korg wave station belonged to Tony Banks, which is also from the same era, I guess, as the piano, the We Can't Dance era. And I've used that a little bit on the album as well. And yeah, it's a great keyboard. And then behind that is the sequential Rev 2, which I mean, to be honest, I haven't really used it enough. I bought it before I got the Prophet 5, and I used it a lot, and I took it to shows and so on. And it's yeah, it's a damn sight easier to carry than the Prophet 5, but yeah, no, I haven't really used it since I've. It's just the Prophet 5 is so good. That's the thing. So I don't know what to do with it, but anyway, I'm sure I'll make use of it again. And then just other little things. Let me see. There's this Eventide H9 pedal which isn't switched on, but it's just great for reverbs and delays. And yeah, I mean, my MacBook. That's your lot. Except, except it isn't. There's another room. Actually, I forgot to do this last time when I did an archives with you, but I do have a couple more interesting synths. Or well, I've got a Roland Jupiter 4, which is in its flight case at the moment. But I mean, those are pretty rare these days.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and plus I've got like under my bed. It's just like there's a DX7, Juno 60, stuff like that. So
How do you
coming
sleep
down.
at night? How do you sleep at night? No,
I just have dreams about keyboard every night.
that's
Me
great.
torturing the DX7.
So let's hear one more so we kind of can see what you've done with all of this, and then I will get to some questions. Does that sound good?
Hmm. Sure.
All right, cool. So let's see. This is called Thieving Daughter. Let's just play it, and then we'll get to some questions, and you can see what
Hmm.
the. All right. Wow, lovely.
Thank you.
Really lovely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so tell us about the what happens in the movie, unless it's gonna. Well, we all can't be go seeing it. So at what stage
Yeah.
of the story?
Well, so just to say, so the track you heard, the film is in mainly set in the Middle Ages, but then there's a section at the end which is more contemporaneous 1920s. Sort of, it's kind of like, so that's how we used to treat women, and this is how we treat women now, kind of thing. And so that piece of music, the Thieving Daughter, comes from that more 1920s portion of the film. And for better or worse, that is sort of saying that, well, now we recognize sort of neurological, disease and psychological ailments, and we treat it with psychotherapy. But of course, in our 2022 mindset, we can see that there was still very much male psychotherapists, and so sort of in a way, the role of the male inquisitor who was torturing women in the Middle Ages was then replaced with sort of male psychotherapists, but
Yeah.
probably slightly better than being tortured, but yeah, still probably problematic. But yeah. Anyway, going back to the film, as I say, the bulk of it is kind of like a documentary historical essay, but with sort of theatrical scenes, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's, I mean, it's like I say, it's from 1922, so I guess like the genres were sort of mixed up a little bit. It was kind of part documentary, part sort of theatrical thing, but yeah, it's good. It's like, it also, there was another edition of it in 1968, which William Burroughs narrated. and it had a sort of a cool jazz soundtrack, bizarrely, with Jean-Luc Ponty was
Oh
playing
wow.
violin. Yeah, so I mean, it's a great soundtrack. But I mean, it's a different approach. I sort of tried to approach this as if the director Benjamin Christensen had asked me at the time, and we were somehow living in a world where there were synthesizers. But so I sort of like, I tried to kind of score the scenes for how they looked to me, and also with a nod to the sort of music of the time. And I didn't sort of show you this, but yeah, I got this little shamanic drum as well.
Oh great.
And uh, yeah, I mean, I sort of tried I didn't just sort of switch on my synths and jam sort of thing. I tried to kind of write for the film. Um, yeah. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent
No,
now.
no, no, but that's really appropriate. You've integrated acoustic instruments with both digital and analog synths, and I think that makes a statement that each of these instruments has its own place and can play nicely together, which is really important, especially when you think back on speaking of back in the day when synthesizers first came around. There was a panic, but the musicians unions they were wanted to stop synthesis because this was going to put them out of work, and I think
Yeah.
that what's happened now with the integration of so many different kind of instruments, and they all have a very valid place. You know,
Well, yeah, I mean, and the brain like notices these things, I don't think, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm on a synthesizer live stream at the moment, so maybe people won't agree with me here, but I actually quite like to hear a range of tones. I don't particularly listen to a lot of music that's just made on synthesizer. And particularly, I find it quite unsatisfying if I can tell that everything has just been made on a computer as well. And so, but obviously, I want a bit of that, and I love synthesizers. But yeah, I mean, I think I like, for me personally, my tastes are that I like to know that there are people playing acoustic instruments in there as well, sort of thing. It sort of seems more real, and there's actual characters in the what I'm seeing, rather than it just being a sort of a graphic, in my imagination, sort of computer graphic.
yeah, I think that makes sense. So I'd like to open it up because we're getting close to finishing, which is crazy. That went by quickly. So I'd like to open up questions for the audience. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking. So I'll start a question and then see if anyone else is interested. So, how many times did you watch the movie? How did you research and prepare for this? And I mean, I know you mentioned a little bit about that, but I would,
Sure.
yeah.
So, well, what I initially did was, when I was asked to do it, I got the MP4 sent over. I already had a couple of little pieces of music that I'd already done, um, that I thought would probably be appropriate, or that I could at least bend and twist into shape, sort of thing. And so actually, I didn't watch the film until I'd already started. I was actually quite a little bit through the process. So what I did do was just go through like fast forward through the film looking for scenes, really. Um, and then having worked on it a little bit, I sort of thought, well, it's high time I actually watched the bloody thing. So yeah, and I did. I've watched it about twice all the way through only, but I was really pleasantly reassured the first time. I mean, I watched it fairly early on in the process. It wasn't it wasn't just the other day or anything. But yeah, I mean, I was reassured that yeah, I think I've got where I'm going with it is right, sort of thing. So yeah, but it's like I said, I mean, it's a long film, so. and I also sort of purposefully want to keep it live in a way. As in, I don't want to get staid about it. STAID. I sort of want to, yeah, still have a little bit of an edge to it. This whole process and the live performance and so on. So yeah, I've seen it twice, and that was enough.
So, just in case people didn't quite understand, I just want to reiterate that you're going to be playing live at
Hmm.
the screening of this in Belfast.
Yeah, so the audience will be there watching the film, and I'll be just to the right of the screen in relative darkness. um, Sort of, yeah, and the one thing actually which we haven't worked out yet, which we need to work out. I probably shouldn't say this because people will be
It's all right.
is how we sync what's on, because I'm going to play. Well, I'm like I'll have some stuff, some cues and so on my MacBook, and so I have a copy of the film on my MacBook. So I need to press play basically at the same time as the projectionist does. Otherwise, we're screwed.
It's going to work out, and that's.
Should be fine.
So we do have a few questions. Synth Texture would like to know if there are any synths, vintage or modern, that you would like to own that you don't already own.
Well, I mean, I would love. There's two spring to mind. One is vintage Mellotron. I'd love to have a
Mm.
mechanical Mellotron. I don't have the space for it anyway, so even if,
You definitely would end up in your neighbor's bathtub or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. That would be the straw that broke the camel's bed. But yeah, but the other one, actually, I'm really interested in the Soma. Of course, forgotten what it's called now. The I don't know if anyone can help me here, but it's like it's the new. It hasn't been released yet, but it's by Soma. It's a Russian guy, I think, and it's basically it looks like a bit of wood, a round bit of wood. It's got sort of buttons on it, and there's a synthesizer in it.
Oh wow, we're gonna have to find a link for that. Somebody definitely. Huh.
But it's just a really interesting interface, and it's that sort of thing where the interface changes the sound in a way. It changes how uh, you know make any sound from the instrument. So yeah, and I just watched a couple of demos of it, and I just thought that was fantastic. And actually, I had it in mind for this Häxan project, but it isn't out yet, so didn't happen. Maybe for the next one.
All right, and Michael Staley.
Hmm.
He wants to know, can you tell us about the track "The Scourge" from the album, which is the nearest to a traditional song with vocals?
Yeah, so that the Scourge is it's like a harpsichord piece. And actually I kind of there's a track or a track. There's a piece by Henry Purcell called The Cold Song. And that's from, his time. So when's that? The late 1600s. But Klaus Know Me. I don't know if do you remember Klaus in the club scene in New York,
Yeah.
Dina?
Yep.
Well, so Klaus did an absolutely stirring rendition of the Cold Song, and it's on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you really ought to watch. It's just amazing. And um, anyway, I sort of had that in mind when I composed this track, "The Scourge," which is kind of like a harpsichord. It's almost like a sort of baroque, or well, I don't know. I mean, it's baroque, pre sort of, yeah. I don't know. It's all. It's very very loosely kind of 1600s. Witch trials happening out the back.
Right. Oh.
And anyway, so my friend Sarah, who's in a sort of art project slash band called Ghostlore of Britain, she sang vocals on it, and she wrote a little just couplet almost just of lyrics that she sings on it, and she plays the harp on it as well. Um, yeah, so it's an interesting track. It's the one track where you get proper vocals as well, and it's in a scene where a one of the inquisitors has kind of, because he's all pent up and a religious nutcase. His libido has gone completely wild. So it's like some a woman that they end up accusing of being a witch has just was only had to sort of come and hold him by the arm, and that has just sent him crazy. So he's fallen in love with this woman. He confesses to his superior, and then he's whipped for it. So it just was quite stirring in the film to have this ghostly voice, sort of this female voice, kind of sing to him while he's being whipped. Um, but yeah, it's funny talking about this when you can't see the context for it, because really the music really is for this film, so it only really works in its completeness when you see the visuals.
Oh, wow.
You'll have to all come to Belfast on Thursday.
Oh, that's it is frustrating in a way. Is there any possibility that this soundtrack could ever be released with the movie?
Well, I would love to do it,
I
and
mean, in
we have sort of talked about I mean, we haven't explored it in any detail, but we've hatched the potential plan of doing more screenings around the country, or seeing if we can ask for that to happen. By the from the powers that be, and then I would go round and tour the country doing my soundtrack. But yeah, I mean, I would love for them to use it, but I mean, that's out of my influence really. So, but yeah, it'd be wonderful to. I even sort of considered, which I may do at some point, releasing the full score. The 1 hour 45 minutes. So I mean, what you could potentially do is play my score and then watch the film on YouTube. Because there's old editions of it, or just some people have just uploaded them
sort
onto
of like a
YouTube.
DIY kind of
Yeah,
score, right?
exactly. I mean, I don't know if there's what the copyright implications are there and so on. So it's yeah, I don't know.
Fascinating. Wow. We have actually we're a little bit past the end. We still have some folk here, which is wonderful. I did share the link. I'm going to share it again. Let's see. This is where people can um, pre-order, and then you said it will be available as of Friday night
Yeah,
in
midnight.
UK time, or
It's midnight the 25th, midnight Friday the 25th. So it's out on Friday basically.
okay, excellent. All right, so it's coming out at the same day that the performance is actually going to happen.
Well, the performance is Thursday night,
Oh, Thursday.
24th.
See, I
Yeah,
keep having my provincial American saying, "Oh, it's Thanksgiving. Nothing happens then."
yeah.
But
And then when the clock strikes midnight, you see, on the witching hour, then the music is released.
perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so Michael found the Soma synth is called
Oh,
Terra.
that's right, Terra. Yeah, that's right, Michael. It's Suma Terra. That's the one.
And all right, I'm gonna see if I can find a picture, and then we'll
Hmm.
go in just a second. Hold on one second. Let's see, Soma Terra,
Hmm.
Soma Terra. Ah, here we go. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, so I will share this all with everybody because I think it'll make quite an impression. Okay, I'm
Hmm.
taking a big chance here. Let's go there. So I'm gonna make a new scene. Let's see if I can do this on the fly. All right. Everyone cross your fingers. Are you all still there? Hope you're all still there. Can you hear me, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get this going and see if the Soma Terra. Is this it? Nope, that's not it. Hold on, desktop. Here we go.
That's it.
That's wow.
Yeah. So it's a very different way of playing a synthesizer, but it's kind of like it's in a couple of the demos that I heard, it sounds as crazy as a VCS3. So I don't know if it has onboard effects. I mean, it's a sort of, it was the kind of amazing demo that you hear where you just don't really know what's going on. So, but it sounded to me like there was sort of some pretty massive reverbs or something in there anyway, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it just sounded really, really great.
Cool. Well, we're going to definitely have to keep an eye on that, and I'm sure when it does come out for real, the Pro Synth Network will be all over that. If there's any, I
Mm.
think, because I saw a few people I know from there, so we'll have to tell Robbie about this. Thank you so much for your time. I'm really excited to hear this. Please check out Nick's Bandcamp and pre-order the CD. Also, please uh, keep
The
on
dom-
please, keep on donating to the Eleanor Perlman Foundation. We depend on your donations to be bringing you programming like this. We're going to wrap up the ARPs, sort of a year summary of the ARPs for All. We've received a few more synthesizer donations and some projects that have happened, and we're going to share that with everyone in the next few weeks. So we will be having some more shows coming up. So even though ARP Live is traditionally somewhat irregular and often occasional, we will be being going strong during the holidays and the winter. So thank you all very, very much. All right, thank you. And let's see if I can get. I did all sorts of crazy things with the throwing that scene in there. So now we have. We have a little soundtrack trailer, which is beautiful, and then like that. All right. Good night,
Great.
everybody, and take care.